Let's talk about Typescript. Do you know what Typescript is?
Superset of JavaScript.
Right, superset of JavaScript, yeah. It's the first serious or successful attempt to add types to JavaScript. In other words, when we categorize programming languages, there are multiple ways of grouping them, right? Class-oriented, function-oriented, blah, blah, blah. One of the most popular ways of grouping programming languages is depending on whether they are strongly typed or loosely typed. You may have heard also referring to that as dynamically typed or statically typed. So a statically typed language implies that when you create a variable, you specify the type. A. Here is a variable that's a string. It will remain as a string forever. You set the type, or a number, or an array, it doesn't matter. You set the type, and then that's the type forever. Yeah? So what that implies, if you try to change the type, it will throw an error. So examples of strongly typed languages, well, we've got Java, C#, C, C++, all these languages you set the type. And then there are other languages like JavaScript or Python where you don't set any type. You create a variable, let character equals Donald Trump, and you don't really specify the type explicitly. Of course, when you do the equal symbol, you have a value. Could be a string, could be a number, but no one prevents you from changing the type of the value later on. Donald Trump, variable, character equals Donald Trump, and then character equals 72. Technically speaking, that's possible, right? So which one is better, statically or dynamically typed languages? That's controversial, right? Depending on your coding style. Yeah, so I wouldn't say that one is better than the other, but there are clearly some differences. Yeah. So JavaScript has been historically speaking dynamically typed. It's still dynamically typed, but now thanks to TypeScript, we can add types. So we can take advantage of the benefits of working with a strongly typed language. Yeah. So TypeScript, by the way, was introduced by Microsoft. It's one of the most popular open source projects at the moment, to the point that if you go to Octoverse, that as you may know is the Bible, the annual report from GitHub where they share many statistics about popular programming language, trendy stuff, and all these things, right? So I never understood why that information is at the very bottom, right? Because this is very important. So first of all, yeah, it goes without saying that JavaScript is the king, and this is not going to change in the next years. But now, yeah, so things like Ruby. Yeah, someone should think about that. Yeah, but anyway, we are not here to talk about bootcamp teaching Ruby. We're here to talk about TypeScript. You can see, never really understood why TypeScript is actually considered a programming language, because it's not. It's just a meta language working on top of JavaScript. But yeah, regardless of whether it's part of JavaScript or not, I hope you agree with me, it's rocking, right? It's getting very popular. I introduced TypeScript at HSBC 3 years ago, and that's the typical thing that when you start working with, you may struggle to really see the advantages, but then after a period of time, you realize that it was fantastic. Yeah? So the architecture of TypeScript is great, because you can install TypeScript and then nothing breaks. So you can have your portfolio or your React application, config, whatever, you install TypeScript and everything works. You don't have to spend days or weeks refactoring your code to make it compatible with TypeScript. No. And I think that's a fantastic point, right? By the way, talking about how to install TypeScript, thankfully today it's very easy to install TypeScript on your Create React App application. So if you go to Google and you search Create React App TypeScript, I'm not going to do that right now, but I'll show you the link, right? Adding TypeScript, it's just running a couple of lines on the terminal. So if you create a new app, you type that command, whatever, and if you already installed Create React App, which is your case, right? Because you're already dealing with it, then the only thing you need to do is to run that command to install the TypeScript dependency. Yeah? So my personal advice is please install it and start playing with it. Yeah? That's a big bonus on your CP. I've told you a few times already that if you want to get a job, it's good to do something different to the others, right? Of course, everyone knows JavaScript, React, but you need something else. You need something different. TypeScript is a good example. Many companies are trying to introduce TypeScript, but they don't have the time or the resources. If you prove that you know a bit of TypeScript, you are on a better position to get that job. All right, so let's play a bit with TypeScript. Thankfully, our platform already supports it, so you can play a bit. So if you select TypeScript, then let's play something pretty basic, right? All right, so the code is just JavaScript, right? So there is nothing exotic here, nothing you don't know already. So you have a function with 2 arguments, and then you check that the result of concatenating A, B is AB, right? So nothing particularly exotic in terms of the functionality. However, I hope you note there is something new here, that column string. That's the bit provided by TypeScript. You see, we got 2 arguments, A and B. Now we can set up the type of A, and also we can set up the type of B, and also we can do that. Can anybody tell me what that means?
You set the type.
The type?
Variable.
The type of what? Of which variable?
So the second one is the result.
So that one, correct, is the type of the return statement. So that means that our function will return a string. This is very useful as a sort of documentation of your code, because that helps to understand what the hell your component is doing, right? So obviously that exercise is not completed. Why? Because we got the type of A, we got the type of return statement. Oh, I clicked somewhere, sorry about that. But we don't have any type of B, right? So this is a very simplistic way to get used to the TypeScript syntax. TypeScript syntax is colon, and then the type of the data. This is a string. So if we test it, hopefully it should work. Here you go, confetti time, right? So what else? Question number 2, it's pretty much the same thing, right? Hello world, then we concatenate the result. But in this particular case, there is some missing stuff, right? So we've got 2 functions. One to concatenate 2 words, A and B. Another one to concatenate 3 words, A and B and C, right? But pretty much, you know, it's the same, right? So colon string, and colon string. And then we return whatever. Yeah, it will be something like word A, word B, and word C. Something like that. Let's see if that works. That won't work actually because there is no return statement. You see? So in here, we have to set up the type of data we are returning. So can you tell me what type of data this function returns?
String.
That's a string, that's correct. Yeah? String. Let's see if it works. It works, yeah? So that's pretty much the idea. You will see that there are different modules, because this one is particularly speaking about strings, but in reality, you got exercises about other types of data, numbers, booleans, but it's the same. It's the same column type of data. Yeah. Let me show you, however, interfaces. Interfaces are arguably the most powerful yet complex data type in Typescript. Let's see how this works. So interfaces essentially, just to simplify the problem, declare the type of the properties of an object, to keep the story as simple as possible. So for instance, can you tell me how many arguments the getFirstName function receives? Elana? How many? You think it's 2? 1 or 2? So you think we are receiving 2 arguments. What do you think, Wesley?
1.
It's 1 actually, Alana, because as you may notice, this curly brace implies that all the stuff inside of it is 1 argument. So we're receiving 1 argument, which is an object. An object with key values, yeah? First name, last name, whatever. But this 1 single argument. And then let's have a look to the syntax. So, looking at the options, unfortunately you cannot see the last one, but an interface, as you can see here, according to the styling standards, is just a word starting with capital I. So you type interface and then the name of the interface. So that essentially is a way to declare the types of an object. So what properties the object has? First name and last name, easy. And what type of data each property has? Well, both are strings, right? So looking at the options, let me get rid of my face. Hopefully that will help to see all the options. There you go. So Elana, which option do you think is the right one? A, B, C, or D? You think it's C? All right. What do you think, Wesley? Do you agree or do you disagree with Elana? Do you agree? Why C and not A? They look very similar. The difference is the capital P. So I agree with you, Elana. I think it's option C. Let's mark it and see if it works. It works. Yeah? So let's do one more, and then we'll leave it here. So question number 2 is very similar, but hopefully you can notice it's slightly more complicated. Because even though we still receive a single argument, you agree on that? It's just 1 argument. In reality, what we got here is a nested object. So we have an object with 2 keys, name and age, but the name is at the same time another object, first and last name. Yep. So that's slightly more complicated. So what's the type of the player? What's the right option, Elana? A, B, C, or D? What do you think? B. All right. What do you think, Wesley? Do you agree or do you disagree?
Agree.
Yeah, that's correct. It's B because why B and not C? Because if you notice, if you pay attention, here we already got the column. We cannot have 2 columns in a row, right? That's why it's B. And now here what? What's the type of the name? Is it a string? Is it an object? Is it what do we put here, Elana? A, B, C, or D? B. So you believe that the name of the player or the name of the user is a string. All right, let's have a look to the description of the test. So if we look at the name, do you think, Elana, that the value associated to that key is a string? It's not. So age is associated to a number, yeah? But the name is not associated to the type string because the name is an object with first and last name. So, look, we also have another interface for the name of the player. So we have an interface that depends on another interface. It will be A. What do you think, Wesley? That's correct. Yeah? Well, let's see if that's correct or not, but it looks good to me. Here you go. Yeah? So this is one of the most complicated scenarios you can find with TypeScript. In other words, that's fairly simple, right? Yeah, of course, there are some corner cases dealing with arrays, optional values, weird stuff, right? So it can get more complicated. But in real life, there's the sort of scenarios you used to deal with. And I hope you can see that the learning curve is fairly soft. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it about TypeScript. Do you have any questions?
So it doesn't seem like there's that much to it.
No, once again, there are many corner cases. Yeah? So for instance, what happens if you receive an array where the first value is a number and the second one is a string? So there is some complexity, but that's not a common use case scenario. So generally speaking, a variable is a string or is an object. So what we've seen today covers easily 80% of TypeScript. So, and that's one of the reasons why it's becoming so popular so quickly, because it's very simple. And then you think, all right, but okay, it's simple, I got it, fantastic, but what's the benefit of working with TypeScript? So I'll give you two reasons. First of all, it helps to document your code. Yeah? If I have a look to this code, I will immediately, well, maybe not immediately, but I will quickly be able to understand the data associated to my algorithms, because it's explicitly described here. The second advantage is, in the long term, TypeScript massively facilitates the process of refactoring your code. You know, you get a component in JavaScript, and at some point you want to move files and change data and blah, 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 blah. It's very easy to break your code. It's very easy. Thanks to TypeScript, as soon as you change something, it will check if all the types are consistent. As soon as any of the types is not working as expected, TypeScript will vomit an error. Yeah? So it's a very good way to make sure, with quotes obviously, that your code quality satisfies some standards.
And test-wise, can you use just the same test group like jest or whatever?
Yeah.
You don't need any changes to those.
No. So one of the beautiful things about TypeScript is, if tomorrow you create a new project, you can run TypeScript in strict mode. It means that because I have a new project, my very first JavaScript function needs to be compatible with types. If I forget to add types, throw an error. Yeah, that's the romantic scenario where you start a new project. But the reason why TypeScript became so popular is because it has sort of a lazy mode. A lazy mode means that if you are already running production software, an existing project, do I need to go through all my functions and add types all everywhere? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Yeah? So you can configure, when you install TypeScript, if you check the docs, you can set up a config file where you specify the behavior of TypeScript in your project, how strict you want it to be. Yeah? And that's great because, hey, listen, Codery has like 80,000 lines of code. I don't want to now change them all. But hey, if I add a new line of code tomorrow, I want to make it TypeScript ready. Yeah? So I can change the engine, I can change the setup to make sure that the older stuff, it doesn't work with TypeScript, but it's not going to break anything. But with the newer stuff, then it needs to be TypeScript compliant. Anything else, guys? No? All right. So that was it from my side. Thank you for watching.